I'd like to now invite Jyotish and Devi ji to lead us in a prayer. And the topic for this morning, India Forward, a Reawakening in God.
Let's all stand. We're closer to God when we stand. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, great saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Beloved Master, beloved Swamiji, guide us forward in ever-deepening attunement to thy will, to thy joy, to thy love. Let us feel it in deep meditation and share it with everyone. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Please be seated. Okay, so first, before we begin a discussion, there have to be some preliminary remarks. First of all, I agree with what Barakweel said. Join the choir. If you're struggling at all, nobody can be sad singing a song like The Secret of Laughter, especially if they do it with friends. Lura, lura, leiru, lura, lura, lie. How can you have a sad face when you sing words like that? So, that's one thing. Secondly, I would be terribly remiss if we didn't thank the cast and Devaki for that incredible play last night. You know, it's something like that. Our talks, quite frankly, you won't remember a thing we said in 5 years. But you'll remember that play, and you'll remember the joy. And I especially want to thank, of course, all of the cast. Really outdid themselves, but I do want to make a special thank you to Dr. Amar. You know, he gave us a good model for how to move forward into the future. I don't mean Ramesh. I mean the character who played Ramesh, because he's a professor of medicine. He has a very busy schedule, and his friend, Dr. Aditya, or at least ex-friend, Nayaswami Aditya, rather imposed on him without a choice to play that part. And to rise to a challenge and then to put your whole being into it the way he did, that's a very good model for us. You know, Swamiji said that the definition of, or one definition of ego is the bundle of self-definitions that we hold for ourselves. So if you hold the definition, self-definition, oh, I couldn't do that, I'm too shy, then that is a definition that needs to be broken. And yet, not all of us have an opportunity that's quite so public to break our self-definitions. But to see a person break through, first of all, some reluctance, and then with wholehearted enthusiasm, and then to go beyond that to define the part for all future actors is really quite something. So I do want to make that special thanks. So, Ananda going on into the future for the next 20 years. First of all, I'm reminded of something that Gyanamata, who was Yoganandaji's most advanced woman disciple, something that she said. Somebody asked her as she was, just to let you know, some of you know her story, many of you don't. She was a householder. She had a husband. She had a son. She lived in Washington. And when she met Master, her whole life became dedicated to him and to his service. And then she, with permission of her husband, moved to Mount Washington and became a nun there. And so her name then became Gyanamata. Master said that she was his most advanced woman disciple. And he said that at the end of her life, she was going to go into the infinite, so complete freedom. But she has a wonderful book called God Alone. If you don't have it and haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. It's mainly letters that she has written to other devotees and giving just priceless advice and a beautiful spirit. But the point that I'm getting to here is that in one of those letters, someone asks her, what would she change in her life? And she said, I would change nothing. I would just do it again, but more and better. And so I feel that way with Ananda going into the future. Master and Swamiji have set a very clear and very powerful direction for us all. We don't need to invent anything new in terms of discipleship, in terms of attitudes, in terms of the spiritual path. We just have to live according to the example that they have given us and do it more and better. That applies to each of us on an individual basis. Each of us will have, certain challenges that we're dealing with, certain circumstances in life perhaps, certain attitudes that are off, certain ways of behaving or habits that we have that take us out of alignment with God. Now, if we get too concerned with what's wrong, we become paralyzed. I don't mean that we should become concerned with what's wrong, but if we see something that needs correcting and it comes to our attention, then we should pay attention to it, and we should try to realign that with the example of Swamiji and with Master especially. And there are many ways to be able to do that. You know, Master said, I've always loved this, he said that God has 8 different qualities, as many of you know. But he said of those 8, I particularly came to express 3 of them: wisdom, love, and joy. So if we hold to those 3, we will be in tune with Master. Now, can you say Swamiji held to those 3? Absolutely. I mean, look at his life. It was kind of a prime example of living according to that. Wisdom, yes. Where does wisdom come from? Swamiji said something very interesting. He said, wisdom is the combination of the heart quality and discrimination. It is neither one alone. It has to be in combination with that. And where wisdom really comes from is not the intellect. The intellect is just a small part of our being. Wisdom comes from our soul quality and from intuition. And if we can go deep in meditation, try to awaken our intuition, try to be guided by our intuition. Wisdom does not come from study. It does not come from anything outward. It comes from deep inner communion with God. So, if we want wisdom, yes, study can help. Yes, listening to lectures can help. Yes, thinking about things can help. All of that is an aid to it. But ultimately, true wisdom comes beyond the mind, beyond the curtain of the mind in deep meditation. Now, obviously, most of us don't achieve that state on a daily basis. Nonetheless, the direction of our willpower to achieve that state will bring about the awakening of intuition. We could give a month-long class on intuition. In fact, David G. has edited a book of Swamiji's talks on intuition. So I won't talk more about that. I just want to say that wisdom comes from nothing outward, although outward things can stimulate it. Wisdom comes from inside, and with deep attunement to and relationship to God. And for those of us who are disciples of Master, especially deep attunement and alignment of our will with God's will as expressed through Master. That's where real wisdom will arise within us. Then love. Swamiji, we have often talked, and we did again yesterday, that the very fundamental core of what Ananda is. I'm saying all of these things, by the way, not as a corrective, as a congratulations, because as I've seen over the years, Ananda has developed these qualities more and more clearly and more powerfully, especially, well, I don't want to say especially, all around the world Ananda has, but also the work in India has developed and deepened along these qualities. But the second of Master's qualities is love, and that is expressed in two ways primarily. The first is that it can't be started by being expressed outside of oneself. It must start by the expression of deep devotion to God, deep love. Devotion is simply the natural love of the heart that tends to be expressed outwardly, drawn in and expressed upwardly. I one time made the, I suppose, witty remark that somebody asked, what's the difference between love and devotion? And I said, the difference between an Italian actor and an Italian saint. Because Italian actors can be very emotional, express a lot of emotion. I suppose I could say the same thing about Bollywood actors, Indian actors and Indian saints. But outward love is one thing and is important. But if we're going to have love that's an expression of God's quality, then it has to be taken within and deeply connected, again in our meditation, but also our practices throughout the day. Ramakrishna said something beautiful. Somebody was asked about, are we supposed to pay attention to God all the time? Do we focus our mind on God? And for most of us with busy lives, that isn't possible, nor did Master recommend it. But Ramakrishna said, the mother cow always knows where the calf is. And so a part of our heart should always be relating to God, always be relating to Master, always, even if it's just a feeling. You can't always bring it to the level of consciousness when you're trying to focus on something. But we can listen to music and watch television at the same time. Why can't we feel the presence of God and do our daily tasks at the same time? There should always be a part of our heart connected with God. But it has to be drawn in with deeper and deeper devotion in meditation. And then if we can connect with God with our love, then to give it to others and see God in the form of others is extremely important. Master would sometimes walk in the roughest parts of Los Angeles, outside the bars where people were drinking, and he would just walk up and down, trying to uplift the consciousness of those people. He said, shoot people with the buckshot of your smiles. He was always, and Swamiji was such a perfect example of love, especially expressed as kindness and friendship. He generally signed his letters in divine friendship. And it was not, my friends, just a signature. It was a way of living. His whole life was an expression of divine friendship. So, as Ananda goes forward into the future, we need to remember that kindness and brotherhood and support and caring about each other, that is core DNA of what Ananda is. If we lose that, we will lose the essence of Ananda. If we hold on to it, then whatever we do will at least be done with kindness. And then finally, joy. We should try to live all the moments in joy. As somebody quoted yesterday, Swamiji saying, the most difficult tapasya of all is to be joyful in all circumstances. Sometimes Devi and I, especially toward the end of his life, Swami was in a state of inner bliss. And many of you know his hearing wasn't good toward the end of his life. He would often invite, almost always when he was in residence, for Devi and me to come down and have tea with him and then do a little walking exercise for him in the garden. But he would, when he was waiting, he would usually have his hearing aids out because they weren't that comfortable. And we would come in and he couldn't hear us and we were quiet. We would come in, we would see him in his chair just with the most blissful smile on his face, just very quiet, very inward, but just you could feel the bliss, the joy coming out of him. And then he would become aware of our presence. And he would say, oh, come in, let's have tea. But he had tea without losing the bliss. And so we need to try to deepen our attunement to bliss at the end of meditation, periodically during the day, but to go deep in that, to deepen our attunement to that, and then live with it. I'll give you a little preview of next Friday. You know, Devi and I write a weekly blog. And so Devi G's, it comes out on Friday. Devi G's just came out. Mine comes out next week. And I'll give you a little preview because I was riding with Nayaswami Aditya in the car the other day and we were just talking. And Aditya asked Swamiji at one point, he was still acting as a doctor at the time, he said, what more can I do to help people? Swamiji said simply, give them your bliss. So I'll leave you with that. Give everyone your bliss. God bless you.
Morning. Well, I don't think any of us will leave this weekend unchanged. I think each of us, I know speaking for myself, have been profoundly touched by being together and sharing this time, the lovely kirtan and meditations and the play, everything. But more than any of those things, being together with all of you, it's just really one of God's greatest gifts. And I'm seeing some of dear friends from Chennai. In 2 weekends, they will be dedicating their beautiful new temple. It's why their leaders, Dharmaraj and Dharmini, couldn't come, because surprisingly, things aren't moving along on schedule. I've never heard it in India, but one of those things. So they had to stay back and try to get it finished. But if you all can hold it in your prayers in 2 weekends, when some of you will be coming, I know, but just to bless their temple. So we were speaking yesterday about the illusion of time. And when we think of the 20th year anniversary, how it really started way before that. In fact, time incalculable. But when we look to the future now, I think we can see currents in the river of Ananda's time that will lead us forward. And I want to just touch on some of these. One very important aspect is to serve humanity. And I want to call up, I hope I can do it without crying, my dear friend, Jaita, who is the head of our work in Vrindavan. These are the heroes. During the floods in Vrindavan, they were delivering food and water in boats to people. Their staff had their houses washed away. They lost everything, but they showed up every day to serve others. Do you want to just say a few words?
Yes. And I think that was the time we all grew. It was amazing. I mean, it's probably wrong in a way to say that I'm thankful for that opportunity, but I am thankful for that opportunity. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known what we can do with the Master's grace and the Master's blessings. We felt Him there at every moment of time. Our hands were never let go. Each and every one who had lost everything have now gained everything, including faith, including hope, including love today. And that is, there's nothing more to say, you know. And one more thing. All our Guru Bhais, oh my God, within 2 days we raised so much of funds so that I could tell each one who came to say that, oh Ma, I have lost everything. And we said, don't worry, you'll get back everything. We will ensure, because people have lent a hand, and I thank you all. Thank you so much.
So service, we are just beginning. The needs of the world, the needs of India are very great right now. Another wonderful service project, I will ask Nitai to stand. He's in charge of our online high school. Right now, there are 8 young girls, about 16 years old, from Afghanistan, who have no way to get education. And he is helping them. He told us yesterday a story. One young girl said, and their lives are not easy. One young girl said, Nitai said, do you know how to play the guitar? And she said, well, I used to. And Nitai said, what happened? She said, oh, the Taliban came and they took my guitar away. Young girls should not make music. And so their only hope for education now is through this online high school. Service. The world needs our service now. Finding God is not just about going up to a cave or sitting in your meditation room. It's with, as Jyotish was saying, with the heart open to all humanity. And that's what we need to do with Ananda Sangha going forward. We have a big plaque at the Sangha office at Ananda Village with a quote from Swamiji that says, Ananda is like a great wave that wants to give and give as long as people are willing to receive. And that's what we are. We are a great wave, And so let's think, look in your area, look in your center, look in your district. How can we serve those in need going forward with Ananda? Another aspect is the great work that Devarshi and the monks are doing in Chandigarh. I don't mean just gardening and building houses and so forth. I mean the life of extreme focus on renunciation, giving up everything. Most of us aren't able to do that. We have family, we have responsibilities, we have job, but they hold a high bar. But for each of us, inner renunciation and inner commitment, everyone can do that. It's available to everyone. It's the essence of the Gita, that everything you do, nishkam karma, don't be attached to the fruit. You do your dharma without attachment. So as our sadhaka order moves forward and more people join, this is the essence. Inner renunciation can change our life and the life of everyone around us. So that's something that is established, but going forward. Another thing that is established, it's why we're all here, Master's mission reflected in Swamiji, bringing together East and West. And as we go forward, there will be unimagined ways we can do this. One is by, of course, sharing the teachings, sharing the Master's interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita, which is a revelation to India, because it sees it not just as a narration or inspiring words, but it has deep symbolic meaning for each of us. It's the battle of light and darkness within each one of us. And we hope in the future, not too distant, that we will be able to have a very interactive website in which we share stories from the Gita and we share Master's interpretation. But this is just one aspect. East and West cooperating with our publications of Swami's books and Master's books. We're hoping to have a unified effort with America and India and Italy, where all the books can be found in native languages, where you just already we have it with the music, where you can order a book online and whatever currency, if it's euro, if it's rupee, if it's dollars, you can do it. So finding ways to work together. And I'm going to embarrass some friends. Okay, Anna and Sambhava, can you stand up? Oh, she's not going to forgive me for this. But Anna these are two wonderful members from Ananda village. Anna is in charge of our meditation retreat, and Sambhava is in charge of our market, which serves the whole community. We married them this year. We performed the ceremony, and they're here on their honeymoon to serve Ananda. And yesterday I saw Anna in the hallway, and I said, and she and Sambhava have been working in the cafe nonstop. And I said, are you having a good time? She said, first we were on pilgrimage. We went to Babaji's cave. But coming here and serving, now I know why we came to India. And now I feel the blessing. So it's the sharing and serving together and living together. And then finally, as we were saying yesterday, Swami, upon reading Autobiography of a Yogi, had two thoughts powerfully in his mind after on the bus coming to touch Master's feet. And as we know, Master's first words were, our Swami's first words to Master, I want to be your disciple. And after a bit of discussion, Master said, come, you have good karma. And he blessed him. And he said, we have a new brother. But Swami's thoughts were, and this is, I think, the key of Ananda going forward. I want to find God, and I want to share these teachings with everyone. My friends, don't set your goal short. Go for the prize. The prize is God. Swami said, each one of you, if you stick with these teachings till the end, can find God. That's why Master came. So don't hold it away. Not me, I'm not good enough, I don't meditate. Forget all that. Just say, what do you want? And if you can say, Lord, I want you, then you are assured that goal can be reached. So the goal, the future of Ananda, is for each one of us to feel God's presence within us and to share in whatever way we can, through teaching, through serving, through farming, through putting on plays, through making cappuccinos in a cafe, sharing God with everyone we meet. This is Ananda's future. And if we can hold true to these things, the world will be a far better place than the one in which we were born. God bless you. Wow, thank you. This is a little complicated. We have all these cues. It's a good thing I wasn't in the play. Although I do know Rama Tama Krishna Tisha. Nayaswami Jaya, our dear friend and brother.
Now I have to ask, in all humility, how in the world can one follow those two talks? Moving forward into the future. And I wanted to start, and before I start, I too want to congratulate everybody last night too. And I want to thank all of you also for being the audience. You know, a play doesn't work unless you have an audience out there who's receptive, willing to receive, has fun, and having been in, maybe not in that play too many times before, but in having done things up here, when the audience is in tune with what's happening, it makes it so much more enjoyable, and it draws out from those actors, as I think we all saw, draws out the best and the highest from them. So thank all of you for participating, because you probably come, some of you sacrificing time to come here, so thank you. Ananda future, going forward. Now, I'd like to start by picking up on a little something that was spoken about yesterday. If you remember, those of you who are here, Jyotish and Devi gave wonderful discourse yesterday. And at the end of that discourse, there was a question and answer session. And somebody asked what I thought was a very, very good question, a pertinent question. It was summing it up. What they asked was, you who have been involved with Ananda for many years, decades perhaps, you knew Swami, and you knew perhaps you could be in tune with him, but how do we, who have come now, perhaps we didn't even come in Swami's lifetime, how do we be in tune with him? What is it to be, because it's an important question, because it is going to be you out here that is going to be taking, all of you here and perhaps the many, many more in our centers who are not here, it is you who's going to be taking this forward. It's going to be you who is going to express whatever that potential is. I think it's really the goal of Ananda is to help individuals. It's not a social movement so much, but it's to help individuals be able to find God. It's a vehicle for people, but nevertheless, a vehicle has a form, and we want to be able to do something positive with it. And so the question was, how do we be in tune to be able to be guided into the future? And the question was answered very nicely. But as I was thinking about it, I went home and I was thinking about that question because it's very important for all of you. Well, I want to tell a story. And because I've had that question, and I think all of us have had that question at a certain point in my life. I came to Ananda in 1968, met Swami in 68, but we came to Ananda in the following year, 1969 I came. And he had asked me to come and help with the projects there. And after a couple of years of being there, I had been listening to Swami, and he was emphasizing again and again, be in tune, try to be in tune. And there was one day I was with 2 or 3 other young men, and that question, we were speaking privately in a small situation, and that question came up again, and we asked Swamiji, says, you keep saying how to be in tune. How do I do that? What does that mean? And I phrased that just a little bit wrong. We asked him, how do we be in tune with you? We want to be in tune with you. And he immediately answered, he said, it's not about me. It's not about me. If you want to be in tune, try to understand what I'm trying to do and help me. And that was a revelation to me. I understood to my degree I could at that time. I'd only been on the path for a few years, 2-3 years. He said, help me. And I knew exactly, to the degree I could at that time, what it was I needed to do. I needed to be helpful. Now, of those 2, there were 2 points there, you notice. Understand, try to understand what I'm trying to do. And the second one was, try to help me. Now, of those 2, the second is the more important. Now, it's not to admit the first one of try to understand what needs to be done, but the desire to be of service, the desire to help, clarifies and brings to our understanding, improves our understanding in the very act of being helpful. I'm going to help. I don't know what to do because this is happening, something's going on. How can I help? How can I pitch in? How can I serve? And in the doing of that, we begin to understand. And we begin then to be in tune. If we understand what's trying to happen, we don't have to be asking, Swamiji, what do I do in this situation, that situation? That intuition begins to grow within ourselves. Well, we're celebrating 20 years here of Ananda Sangha, and it's been a great journey. Some of you have been with us almost from the very beginning. I came in 2005 to visit Swamiji at that time, and the following year I came in 2006. And when I first saw Swamiji in 2005, he immediately said, Jaya and Sadhana Devi, I was with Sadhanaji, he says, I want you to come to India. And I took it I said, oh, well, certainly, sir. And then he says, I want you to come. And a little bit later, I asked, well, what should I do? He says, I want you to teach. Well, 20 years now has gone by very quickly. And you get older in life and you'll discover that time seems to speed up. But it reminded me of 20 years when we celebrated at Ananda Village. Same thing. We had a celebration 20 years after its founding, and we were celebrating, and we were so happy, and the same questions were coming up, but Swami was with us at that time, and we were celebrating because we had survived. And I say that because there were hundreds. At that time, there was a certain vibration in the air in the 1960s, 1970s, of starting communities, starting ashrams, and most of them, very, very few of them survived. We had survived, but not only had we survived, we prospered. We were doing quite well. And I remember Swami in those days, he would say something that explained, and for us, all of us to consider as individuals and as a community. He said, it takes all great movements in history start with a very few people. They have to start somewhere, and it's a very few people start. And we would often use the example of the Renaissance, European Renaissance, those artists that and writers and that characterize it. But it wasn't them, those writers or those artists, those sculptors who made the Renaissance. The Renaissance was happening, and they tuned into what was happening and expressed it. And it expressed through them that we now look back. And he said, in history, there are moments in time when certain things are trying to happen. And he would use that phrase, what's trying to happen here? It happens in a large scale, but it also happens in a small scale with groups, and it happens with individuals too. There are moments in a person's life when the door is open. There's moments when something can happen. And I think each of us as devotees, paying attention to those moments in life where we can respond and be sensitive to what's trying to happen and walk through that door and be helpful. And I think what we're experiencing here, what Ananda Sangha has experienced, is one of those moments. Something is trying to happen. Swami came in 2003. He didn't come for his own sake. He didn't come because he had a desire. He came because he felt the moment was right. He had thought about coming many times, and when growing up with him on the spiritual path and listening to him, he would speak about going to India, starting to work in India, but the time was not right. And he waited for that moment of time, and when that time came, he acted, not because he wanted to do it, because he felt this is what Master wants. And I think that's what we need to inculcate within ourselves as we take Ananda Sangha India forward. What does Master want? What is the right way, or what the right moment? How should we take this forward? What should we do? But it's not necessarily the things that we should do. It's the energy of a trying to go forward. And if we do that in the right spirit, and we tune in, and we're in tune by helping, by serving, we find that we're guided at the right moment to take that step forward. Shakespeare said it quite nicely. He said, there's a tide in the affairs of men, if when taken at flood, lead on to fortune. Omitted, the lives are bound up in shallows and miseries. And you could see he was saying, the door is open at a certain point of time. And I think all of us are taking that step forward to go through that door to be able to serve Master. Now, I was reading something just recently about Master's life. I was reading the autobiography, how he came to America in 1920. And I was also reading recently a bit of a biography of Swami Vivekananda. And Swami Vivekananda he went to America in 1893. And when he came back, he was there for maybe a year, 2 years, I'm not sure. But he went back to India, and people asked him, what was it like? What was your impressions? What do you think about America? And he said at that time, the people in America are saturated in boga, material enjoyment. And they're ready for something more. They don't know it, but they're ready for spirituality. The soil in America is fertile for the seeds of spirituality to be planted. But you see, it wasn't his dharma to be that. And ultimately, 30 years later, Paramahansa Yogananda goes to America, and he plants those seeds at that time. But when he said that, he wasn't only speaking about America. He was speaking about India too. Because somebody asked him, let us plant those seeds in India as well, of seeds of spirituality. And he said, no, the time isn't right. India, because of the legacy of colonialism, the legacy of what had taken place in the centuries before then, he says, and India needs to focus on something else in this moment. We have to, in a sense, you could say, we have to materially be able, we have other duties that need to be taken up first. And he said, the time will come when we do take up that spirituality. But I don't think he meant it that there was not spirituality already in India, because it's in the very soil. But he said the time will come in the future. And so Master came to the United States, cultivated those seeds of spirituality, but then in time, this message was also for India, because Swamiji would say, when he was asked if there were saints in India like in the modern day when he came back in 2003, and he said when he was here in the early 1960s, late 1950s, he said he saw many more saints. And somebody lamented that. He says, but it has to be that way, because India has a special dharma to play right now. It has to bring itself up. But those seeds are already planted in India. And I know when I came in 2005 or 2006, Swami said, I want you to teach. Now in my mind, I didn't of course say this to Swami, but I thought, am I here in India to teach these teachings? These are seeds that are planted here in India already. But I was skeptical. I wasn't sure how this was going to be received. But soon after, Janaji and I and Dharmadas, you remember, Haridas, others, we began to travel about India into the major metros, sharing these teachings. And I couldn't believe it. We were receiving tremendous crowds that were coming. One of those places was here in Pune. We came to Pune, we went to Chennai, we went to Bangalore, we went to Calcutta, and hundreds of people were coming to those classes. And what they seemed to be saying to us is, you are bringing, Ananda Sangha is bringing to India the ancient teachings, but in a language that makes sense. I remember many young people would come up to us and say, my parents talk about these things, but you explain it. I understand finally what they have been talking about. It was presented in a new, I think some of you could, I see you shaking your heads, yes, because I think you could probably affirm those stories. It made sense. It was in modern language. And this is what Ananda was able to bring of Master's teachings. Master spoke in that way. Swami spoke in that way. And I think as we go forward, one of our missions is to be able to fulfill that message that Master brought, to harmonize East, harmonize West. And it's not the projects, it's the spirit behind what we do. It's the clarity, it's the willingness, it's the service. I have a quote that, the water got onto my quote, but made it all run together. But essentially what that quote was going to say, he said, we must balance the practical materiality of the West with the practical spirituality, the modern practical spirituality of the East. Now, interestingly, I say practical because what is yoga if not practical? It's spirituality in a practical form. These two must be brought into balance in order for mankind and in order for each of us as individuals to smoothly grow in spirituality, to be able to find God smoothly. And so this is what he brought as as a macro mission. And I think we each have the opportunity to ride that wave, to be able to help make that a reality. And I think there is a tide in the affairs of all men have taken it flood. And I think that tide of affairs applies to us as individuals, and it also applies to us as an organization, as a group of individuals. The time is right, and I think we have been given the blessing to be able to participate, and then we've been given the blessings to be able to help. When Swamiji said, try to understand what I'm doing, and try to help me. And this is what each of us can do. Let's try to help in whatever way we can, and in that helping, will draw to us the inspiration and the understanding of what our steps will be. And as Master and as Swamiji, in trying to explain Master and to share Master, he always would refer back. What does Master want? What's the right thing to do? What does God want? And if we attune ourselves in this way, just by being serviceful, giving of ourselves, we'll find that intuition begins to grow, and we'll know intuitively. And in that, we'll feel that joy that Master brought. We'll feel that love that Jyotish and Devi were speaking about. And ideally, we'll even gain a little wisdom in the process of doing that. So God bless all of you, and joy to you.
Thank you, Jyotish and Devi ji and Jaya ji. That was so beautiful and appropriate. And I was thinking, friends, of a little adding to what Jayaji was mentioning about the practicality and, of course, the new expression. As Master put it, he said, Swami said, sir, are you starting a new religion? And with so many revelations coming in from Master one day, he said, sir, are we starting a new religion? And Master said, oh no, it's a new expression. And all of us are here, I think, because on some or the other level, we have felt that ever new expression of an ancient truth. I want to start, however, with a story that was one of Sri Yukteswarji's favorite, because when we speak of India future, going in the future, I remind myself this story. It's one of my favorites. It's in the essence of the Bhagavad Gita by Swamiji. And the story is that when your mind is running fast, when you're in an age of energy, when you're thinking of future and the tide is going forward, Sri Yukteswarji said, approach it with a little caution. Be cautious. And what was the caution, he said? He said, this is the story he mentioned. He said there was a man who was once roaming in the Himalayas doing deep austerities, and he chanced upon a tree which he had never seen before. And he said, I wonder what is that tree? And suddenly a thought, intuitive thought, this must be the wishing tree, the Kalyan Kalpatru. And he said, could it be? And how do you know if it's the wishing tree? Well, you sit under it and make a wish. And he did right away. And he thought, here I've been roaming in the jungles, it's been cold. I wish there would be a house over here for me. And instantly a house materialized, and he was so happy. He found the tree. And he said, it'll be nice to have some servants, some food, a little comfort over here. Instantly. And suddenly people started recognizing him. He was very happy because that confirmed it was his house. It's going as he wanted. So he went in and they greeted him, and he said, wow, I must at least see my entire house. So he started going from room to room, and all was beautiful. Till he reached a room where a window was open. And he looked at the window and he wondered, why is this window open? What might be the purpose? And nothing struck him, but this thought came, I should close this window. Here I am in the Himalayan jungles. What if a tiger came inside right now? That was the end of the story. It's a very sweet story, a little bit like our tiger stories from yesterday. But the message is very clear. I have faced in my life those times when I'm going. I remember one time asking Jayaji, I was going through a challenge, and I said, and he says, how were you feeling yesterday? Because we had a beautiful program and something. I said, very inspired. Be careful now. When your energy is high, he said, Swami used to remind us. And we think, how can a spiritual, let's say, high lead to a low? it's not necessarily, there's only one world ultimately. And we live in a world of duality. And while we are in this world of duality, it is good to catch those tides and waves, and we want to in our own mind, in our own spine. And ultimately, we know through Kriya practice that wishing tree is in us. And it's the power of our will, concentration. So, Swami said, when a lot of energy is going through you, basically your entire past has the potential to be reawakened. But we don't want to necessarily reawaken that. As Jayaji, Jyotish and Devi were beautifully saying, we want to ask Master the simple question, what do you want? What is trying to happen over here, Master? And I want to cooperate with that side of myself. Now, a few months ago, I was traveling to 2 different cities over here in India. And interestingly, 2 devotees asked a question, the same question. And I thought it's very relevant for us, especially when we're talking about going in the future. India is like every other place going, but there's also a wonderful reawakening of our legacy that is coming in our hearts, in our minds, in our awareness. And so these devotees asked me this question that somebody mentioned. There's a very ancient text, not the Vedas, but the Puranas and other things. And there are beautiful, like 100, 200 techniques of meditation mentioned in one of them. It is apt for yogis. And so they necessarily, they said, do we need to read this? But in any case, they ordered the book. And 2 different cities, different people. And they said, we started reading the book. But after going through 50, 60 techniques and suggestions, we realized this is what Master and Swami have given us, except with a different name. The approach is different. The language is different. It's Sanskrit in one case. It could be Hindi. It is English in this case. And do we need to read, and how much of this do we need to read? I remember another devotee inviting me to a book study, and she said, you must come. We read the Vedas, then we go for the Upanishads, then we read this book and that. And I said, I enjoy them too. I have a library of some books like that. But I said, you've been a Kriya practitioner for 15 years. Why do you want to read about the spiritual eye when Master has taught to see it? Why do you, and how much do you want to read about Om? You could have a whole Samhita, but don't you want to be in Om? Why do you want to read a book? And scriptures do have, of course, the blessing, the vibration of peace and calmness, joy. There is a light, Swami said, around them. But do you want to be around the book, or would you rather be in the experience? And when I mentioned this to the friends, they said, that makes sense. Now you may say, but what still about the Vedas? Well, many years ago, this thought came to me. Mahavatar Babaji asked Master, he said, I want you to re-establish the teachings of Hinduism, which in the proper name is Sanatana Dharma, and original Christianity. He said, show by parallels that they are one and the same thing. Well, if you see, and then Master writes the Bhagavad Gita. But what is the Bhagavad Gita? Kriyanandaji writes in the introduction. He said the Bhagavad Gita is the condensation of all the Upanishads. What are the Upanishads? They are the condensation of all the Vedas. What are the Vedas? Vedas teach us how to live. If you think of a Vedic village, how are people going about their daily lives over there? Now, Swami Kriyanandaji writes the Bhagavad Gita as his guru told him. Actually, let's go back. He first reads it in 1951 when Master has written it. And what does Swami say? So this is the most beautiful thing I've ever read in my life. And soon afterwards, Master tells him, you should write. I want you to write, lecture, and edit. And after reading the Bhagavad Gita, Swami says, sir, is there anything more to be written? You've written the autobiography, the Bhagavad Gita. What else could be written? And Master, Swami said, was shocked. And Master said, don't say that. Much more needs to be written. Much more needs to be done. And so Swami meditated on that statement. And now let's take the reverse cycle. If the Vedas, the way of life, became the Upanishads, became the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita is brought by Master, and he says, now write how to live, how to pray, how to cook, how to make friends, how to be successful, how to be dharmic, how to have healthy relationships, how to be a good leader, how to have an uplifting drama, play, uplifting music. And Kriyanandaji just didn't write out of his mind. He created a place, as Jayaji, Jyotishji, Deviji were sharing, where he practiced, applied, invited others to apply, and in their way of life, they ended up creating what one could say is a modern expression of a Vedic village. So if you're looking for how do I inspire my life, how do I take it in the future, what expression should I give in whatever we might be doing? Yes, you could go on Amazon and order a few ancient texts and they will be helpful. They are, as I said, inspiring. But if you're looking for really how to, Master said he created how to live schools, he created how to live communities, and he called this way of living he called it the art of living. So I think when Swami used to remind us, Jayaji spoke of practicality, he asked me, Kriyanandaji once asked me, I want you to do outreach. Because he had written so much, I said, sir, what aspect of it? He said, oh, just make the teachings practical. And what is practicality? Jyotishji mentioned that very sweet exchange. That was the one line advice Swamiji gave me, you might say on a medical front, be in bliss. I've thought about it. As I've read the Bhagavad Gita, I found over there a beautiful statement. Perfect discrimination, which is vivek, which is decision making on one level. You might say, should I do this? Should I do that? Sri Krishna says perfect discrimination comes from perfect bliss. It's not when we are angry or moody or in a doubt or despair that we make the best decisions. It is when we are free from the ego, when we are free from likes and dislikes, when we are established in bliss, that we are able to finally perceive clearly what is it that Guru is wanting, what is it that God wants. So when Swami said to me, be in bliss, I think he also helped my medical diagnostics. And I have made some decisions where the problem was in one part of the body, but the tumor or the ailment was in another one. So I leave you with this thought, friends. We don't need to look any further. Swamiji very beautifully, lovingly, as a service to his Guru, wrote those books for you and me out of his own experience. Like we might say, we should say, they are spiritualized. They have been experimented upon. Now we just need to bring them into our lives, invite the grace of the masters. And Swami said, going forward, he believed in time Paramhans Yogananda ji will be recognized as the Guru of this world. A Guru is a person, as Master himself said, who has applied these teachings himself and gained self-mastery and now is coming to lead us in that direction. God bless you. I'd like to invite Dhyanaji now to share with us.
Good morning, friends, and welcome. It's a joy to share this weekend. It's celebratory, and you can feel the joy. You can feel the masters. You can feel how pleased the masters are, Swamiji, and it's a joy to share with you this morning. I'd like to talk more about moving forward into the future with Ananda Sangha with a very brief quote of Swamiji. These are his own words here in India, maybe 15 years ago. Everyone, we have a work to spread. The world needs our help. Ananda offers an alternative, desperately needed in our times, of a way of life in which people live together in peace, harmony, sharing, security, and brotherhood. These are wonderful words, and I could actually stop my talk by saying I agree with everything everybody has said, but I do want to add a few words that when you hear these words of Swamiji and you hear his talks and you read his books and you see the dynamism and the magnetism that he had and the spiritual power that he put out, all the years that he served Master, you would think it's not a lifetime for us to sit back, to maybe roam by the Ganges, to go find a cave in the Himalayas and have a nice lifetime like that. It's a lifetime of action. It's a lifetime of serving our Guru. It's a lifetime of dynamism, of moving forward. A Nadi reader who I went to some years back, one of the things he saw there for me, he said, well, you have an attachment to the bottom of the Himalayas because you lived there in some lifetime in caves, and you'll go back to those caves at the end of your life. I said, cave? I'm not going to live in a cave. But I think he really meant the inner cave of meditation and silence. And for all of us, I doubt seriously if we'll be going into caves. And Master told Swamiji, you have a great work to do. And Rajasi told Swamiji, Master said that, and he will give you the power to do that. And I was at one of Swamiji's birthday celebrations where he looked out at an audience bigger than this, and he quoted that, and he said, and you all are part of that strength. And so all of us are part of that strength to make Master's name and his teachings known. And also India is a part of the great work of Swamiji's legacy. And we're going forward with that. When Master went to America, we were talking a little bit about that, he lived in very humble dwellings, a little room. He didn't know anybody. He didn't know the language a little bit. But anyway, there he was, and Dr. Lewis came to visit him in this very small place. And Master, he was affirmative all the time. He looked at Dr. Lewis, and Dr. Lewis was doubtful if it will grow or what will happen. Here's an Indian coming to America, to the West, and Master looked at Doctor and says, Doctor, it's going to be big. Doctor looks at the little room, and he thinks, how is that going to happen? Master said, mark my words, it's going to be big. And that's the same for us. This work is going to be big. It's Master's power behind it, Babaji's power behind it, and our efforts that will make it that way. When Swamiji came in 2003, I came in 2005, he was so busy. I'll go back a little bit, then I'll go forward. But he was always, why don't you do this and get out and do that? And he was writing books on how to get the teachings out and what the teachings were. He was on television, different programs talking about the teachings. He had a bookstore going. He had Preeti said, get an EFL school going. He had so many things going. He would tell us, get up and get out there and tour around India and do classes and meet people and get the vibrations of Master out. He was very busy, and he was always wanting us to do more and more. So then he would bless a few of us, as Jayaji mentioned, it was the two of us and various others, and he would just say, okay, come here, I'll bless you, and now get out there and meet your Guru Bhais and go to the different cities and teach. And so we would go to all the ones Jayaji mentioned, all the different places, and so we didn't know anybody at the very beginning. So we would go, we'd set up the chairs, set up the altar, then we'd do the registration, do the book table. And I was on the book table. I was on the registration, Jai was on the book table. And the registration of these long Indian names, like from the south, Subramaniam, R.K. Subramaniam. And so I would say, can you spell that name? And now, can you write that name? And then Jaya would be on the book table, and then I'd go back and say, Jaya, it's time to give the talk. Really? And he would go from selling the books, because we just didn't know anybody. He'd go up there, Patanjali said, Bhagavad Gita said, after selling the books. And this was just our life. And I remember someone asked, and as he said, there were hundreds of people came. And I remember sometimes the microphones were so bad. I mean, we were in the biggest hall we could afford. We'd have Kriya in a hotel. I mean, we just didn't know anybody, and the microphones would be so bad that you'd start talking and go, and what I was saying, And I thought, nobody's ever going to come back to these. But next day, 200 people. How to meditate class. Sometimes we stand on a table teaching energization because we didn't have a stage, but people came. They wanted the teachings. And then after that, people started coming, like some of our Guru Bhais here. People start coming. We got centers that were in apartments. The temple was in the living room. The altar was there, and I remember the the Chennai people. What a wonderful group. I would be in the back room because I'd spend the night there and do the classes, and they would be out in the living room in the temple, and sometimes at midnight or 1 o'clock, and I'd go out there and go, when do you people go home? And they said, listen, this is our home. And they would stay. And remember the boutique, and also they would try to sing Swamiji's songs, and I'd be in the back, that's a wrong note, you know. But then it would get better and better and better, and then Swamiji didn't even know people would like his songs. He said, do you think people will like the songs? I said, we think so. Now to see the beautiful choir, the wonderful songs, they're all in tune. And I just remember one talk when we would go do level 1 in Bangalore, Chennai, Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad. Okay, now level 2. Let's go Raja Yoga. Bangalore, Mumbai, Chennai, Pune, and then we go. Let's teach them discipleship. Then we go around. Then we go Kriya prep. Then it was time for Kriya. And then we get these little centers started that were full of joy. But I remember one talk we were at, and someone asked, they said, well, it was question and answer, well, what are your powers? And I knew I didn't have any powers, so I looked at Jaya, and maybe he has some. But anyway, he said, I don't think I have any powers. And the whole audience was like, why are they here? They don't have any powers. Who are they? So then, so they said, but wait, I might have one power. And I went, wow, I didn't know he had any powers. But he said, the power to be happy at will. All those people came to the How to Meditate. How many people knew somebody like that? The power to be happy at will. And that's why people came. They felt the sincerity, they felt the wisdom, they felt the devotion, they felt the commitment. Then they started giving, then they started coming and helping, and then more and more people came, and then people bought pillows for the center, and then got the chairs and got the pictures for the altar, and became supporting members. And now you don't do it, we'll do the registration, we'll do the book table. It was so beautiful to see the spirit of our Indian Guru Bhais. And then after that, the classes got bigger and bigger and bigger. We got bigger centers, bigger halls, and I remember Swamiji, there was one talk, there were 1,500 people, then there was 2,000 people, and then there was 3,000 people. I remember one of those talks, Swamiji walked out, he said, I think he said to you, Jai, he says, now this is a good turnout. He was so happy when people came. And after that Kartikeyanji didn't say, but he hosted that one program in Chennai where there were 3,000 people. He helped with the promotions. And after that, we were going to dinner. We went to dinner. We couldn't even sit down. And Swamiji said, get over there. He says, call Dharmenian Dharmarajan and tell them to come to India. We need to have a center here. So we went and called them, and they said, he's already called us before the talk. And that's just how he was. He wanted people to come and help launch India and help find our Guru Bhais here in India. And more that happened. And so now it's just spread. India's bursting with energy and people and teachers. Now we have acharyas in India who are Indian. We have Lata's been teaching yoga teacher training and meditation teacher training. We have over 150 of each of those who travel around. I hope they're traveling around lots, and teaching and teaching. And then we have the program like what Jyotish doing, and we have the orphanage, and we have different projects for Master's work going on. We have people touring all around. We had one center at the beginning. Now we have 14 centers. We have online. We have home study. We have whatever we can do. We've been doing it. We have pilgrimages going all the time. We have the orphanage work. I mean, really, Swamiji must be so pleased, and Master must be so pleased. But it's not the end. It's the beginning. Swamiji himself planted the seeds, and it's so, India is so fertile. I mean, there's so much interest. I remember once, here's Jayaji and I again, we were teaching, we had just given Kriya, so we were going through the Mumbai airport, and coming back to Delhi, remember? And there we were, and we were just so blissed out from the Kriya. So we go to the airport, and I was going through security, and the security lady, she says, "Oh, who are you?" And I said, I told her my name. She says, "Oh, what are you doing here?" So I told her I was teaching meditation. She says, "Oh, I want to learn that." And I said, "Okay, here's my card." She says, No, I want to learn now." And I said, "Really? I mean, isn't there a line out there?" She says, "I want to learn." I said, "All right." So Ramani, my friend, was next in line. So she said she kept looking at her watch and, "What's going on in that booth?" So I said, "Okay, close your eyes, look at the spiritual eye, and watch the breath." And I taught her a couple of deep breathing, and she had her eyes closed a couple of minutes. She opened her eyes. She was so happy. We don't realize what we give to people. She had tears in her eyes. She said, "I've been wanting to learn this forever." And so then I gave her the card. I said, "You go to the Sangha," because 2 minutes is not long enough. So then the next time we were at the same airport, I just can't believe it. This was Master saying, "You need to be out there. You need to reach people. You need to talk to people. You need to teach people." Same airport. Here we are again. Another class, and I hear somebody, we're sitting there waiting to get on the flight, I hear someone going, ma'am, and I looked around, there's a security officer, and I said, "Is there some problem here?" And she says, "Don't you remember me?" And I said, "No." She said, "You taught me how to meditate." I said, "Are you still meditating?" "Yes, I want part 2. I said, "Jaya, do you have Jyotishji's book?" He said, gave me the book. I said, "Go for it." Everywhere you go, the need is so great. So as we are channels for the Masters, we go forward with everything everybody said, with attunement, with love, with joy, with caring, with kindness. And this work will just be even far greater than we can ever imagine. I want to add to what Nayaswami Devi said this morning to close about just a very quick glimpse at the future, where these are some possibilities, and I'm sure there'll be many more, but I want to give these. In going to the future, where are we headed? What can we do more and better? More media promotions of the teachings for greater reach, special projects to reach larger audiences, more outreach, in person, online, home study in India and Southern Asia, teacher and leader training programs, more of them, and Ananda Yoga spread around India, more centers, meditation groups, places for seclusion, retreats, temples, communities, pilgrimages, involving local people helping. More events and programs to deepen our spiritual life like this. Spiritual Renewal Week, discipleship and Kriya programs. Swamiji's books, classes, and Kriya, also in more regional languages. Men's and women's monasteries. Choirs and musical groups singing and playing our music around India and beyond. Education for Life in schools across India, and Education for Life Teacher Training Institute. Corporate programs sharing with other institutes and organizations where we can offer master's teachings. More programs to help the needy, orphans, widow mothers, and others in need. Finally, more collaboration between the U.S. and our global work, and more, longer, deeper, guru-given meditation to be able to find God and to spread Master's teachings everywhere. God bless you.
Thank you, Dhyana ji. And friends, we will now move into the book launch of Jyotish and Devi ji's book, A Touch of Wisdom. And I would like to invite Jyotish and Devi ji on the stage to please come. Yes. As you know, Jyotish and Devi ji write weekly blogs, and this is a compilation, most recent compilation of their blog. So I'll invite Urmila to please come, and Jyotish and Devi ji to please bless the books, and then Pia, will you please come and receive the first book? You can just gift it. Yeah. Dhyana ji. Jaya ji. Thank you, Jyotish and Devi ji. We will now, friends, after a little video that Bhaktan has prepared for us, it's a compilation of Ananda's 20 years in India. We will move into the felicitation of some of our members. So let's tone down the lights now and we will watch this video together.
India is a country of great spirituality. I closed my eyes. I felt this joy coming up out of the ground. That is India. India is that great power that the rishis have left in this soil that has impregnated it. And at this time, we are living in an age when we need to not just have ashrams. It's not a time to turn people away from the worldly life. It's a time to spiritualize that worldly life. It's a time to help people to understand that God is with you wherever you are. When I came to him, I came with his real desire. I said, this book is so wonderful. I want to share this with everyone. And he saw that I had that desire to share this teaching. He said, you have a great work to do. I said, sir, haven't you said everything that needs to be said? He said, don't say that. Much more is needed. I love speaking in India because people's hearts are automatically more open here. I believe the future of India is a blending, as my guru used to say, of East and West, and of America especially, and India. That these two countries, he said, someday will unite in brotherhood to lead the world toward prosperity and dharma. It's time to bring God into the home. It's time to bring yoga into the home. It's time to help us to understand that raising a family does not mean you've got to do it egotistically for yourself. Live for God in what you do. You can change people's lives, but the first thing you need to do is change your own life. If you do this, there is great joy.
Anandam Anandakaram Prashanandam Jnanaswarupam Nijabodharupam Anandam Anandakaram Prashanandam Jnanaswarupam Nijabodharupam Yogindra Midyam Bhavarogavidyam Srimadgurum Tvamaham Namami Yogindra-midyam Bhavarogavidyam Srimadgurum Tvamaham Namami Nalini Dalagatta Jalamati Taralam Tadvat Jivanam Atishaya Chapalam Nalini Dalagatta Jalamati Taralam Tadvat Jivanam Atishaya Chapalam Jannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnavataram Loko Jannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnavataram Loko Anandam Anandakaram Prashanam Jnana-swarupam Nijabodharupam Anandam Anandakaram Prashanam Jnana-swarupam Nijabodharupam Yogindra-midyam Bhavaroga-vaidyam Srimad-gurum Tvam Aham Namami Yogindra-midyam Bhavaroga-vaidyam Srimad-gurum Tvam Aham Namami Nalini Dalagatta Jalamati Taralam Tadvat Jivanam Atishaya Chapalam Nalini Dalagatta Jalamati Taralam Tadvat Jivanam Atishaya Chapalam Jannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnavataran Noko Jannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnavataran Noko Jannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnavataran Noko Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Sri Ram, sing with me. Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Sri Ram Jai Ram Hare Ram Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai 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 Ram Yogindra Nidyam Bhavaroga Bhaija Srimad Gurum Tvaham Namami. Nalini Dalagatta Jalamati Taralam Tadvat Jivanam Atishaya Chapalam. Nalini Dalagatta Jalamati Taralam Tadvat Jivanam Atishaya Chapalam. Nannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Svavati Bhavarnavatarane Noko. Nannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Svavati Bhavarnavatarane Noko. Nannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Svavati Bhavarnavatarane Noko.
Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion. May we be able to awaken thy love in the whole heart.